Welcome to Whitetail Rendezvous Podcast. This is Bruce Hutchin, host and executive producer. Each week, you will hear tips, techniques, strategies, and personal stories from some of the best and funniest whitetail hunters in North America. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you do, tell a friend on social media. If not, tell me and I'll make it better. Thanks for listening, folks. This is Whitetail Rendezvous, episode number 415. I'm excited to introduce Samantha Ohl to you today. She has finished the course at the Discovery Channel on Naked and Afraid. She is a survivor of that, and we already know her success. You won't hear about that on the show, about how she did in the show, but you certainly will get the flavor of who Samantha Ohl is. And she's quite a hunter. She loves to fish. She's a kayaker. She's an outdoors woman, and she has a wife. She is a wife and has a couple of kids. And the biggest thing about Samantha I took away from the show was that she's a real person. She enjoys the heck out of what she does. She does it to the final T, if you will. She crosses all the T's and dots all her I's when gets ready to go out into the field. Scent control is huge with her, and she takes painstaking steps to make sure she eradicates all possible scent, because she's been busted. And once you get busted, you figure out, okay, why the heck did that happen? Well, she figured it out. And today she goes out and yes, she's very successful each fall. And her and her husband are family grocery hunters, meat hunters, if you will. And everything they shoot, they process and put in the freezer, and then they eat it throughout the year. So I can't wait to share some of Samantha Ohl's insider secrets with my friends at Whitetail Rendezvous. Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. This is your host, Bruce Hutchin, and we're heading out to the Keystone State. We're heading out to Pennsylvania and Samantha Ohl. And Samantha and her husband have Keystone Outdoors, and she's going to tell us about that. And on August 13th at 10 p.m. on the Discovery Channel, this young lady is a survivor for Naked and Afraid. So this is it's really kind of cool to have a lady that went out there and put it all on the line and survived someplace in the world. So Samantha, welcome to the show.
All right, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, we're excited about that. And so let's just promo Naked and Afraid show coming up. Tell us why you get into that and how that relates to you being a hunter.
Well, okay, I actually was not seeking out to be on Naked and Afraid. I was just posting pictures on my Instagram of me hunting and me fishing. And I guess I might have had some good hashtags that Discovery, the casting crew found interesting. The next thing you know, I found a couple comments on a lot of my hunting photos and said, hey, this is awesome. You should really apply for, to go on Naked and Afraid. And I'm like, no way, this can't be real. Like, no, it's just little old me. Well, they tried to talk to me twice on Instagram. Next thing you know, I get a message on Facebook, and then I get a comment about liking one of my photos. And I'm like, man, this is for real. And so I asked my husband, and I said, what do you think? And at first, he was like, it's naked. And I'm like, I know. And then he's like, well, he said, whatever makes you happy, dear, I support you. So next thing you know, I apply, and I'm on an airplane.
And we're going to find out what happens on August 13th. Let's talk about.
I can't tell you the ending.
No, I understand. We talked about that in the warm-up. So, folks, you're not going to hear. You're going to have to watch the show. That's all I can say. But let's talk about the hunting aspect, because they found you because you were posting hunting pictures and fishing pictures. So what's hunting really meant to you to get you to that point? I mean, because everybody in the world's not on that TV show.
Yes. For hunting, to me, and fishing, honestly, it's just it's my way of life, my family's way of life. It's what we live and breathe, quite honestly.
And when you think of that, what's the hunting tradition in your family? Did you grow up hunting, or
My husband grew up hunting. I did not. I started hunting 2 years ago, and I took an interest because my husband would always take me out, and I would just sit with him, and I'd film him, take pictures, and I would do all that part, and then I never really hunted, and I finally found an interest one day. I said, "Can I get a hunting license?" And he said, "Sure." He said, "Definitely, let's try it." And next thing you know, I killed my first wild boar, and after that, I was hooked. So, needless to say, since that experience, that's how it's all came about this whole entire life so far now.
What advice would you give other ladies that are going to hear the show, see the show about getting involved in the outdoors?
For ladies, I honestly think it is a great way, especially if you're married. I know that we always want time with our husbands, but you know what? It is one of the best experiences, best times that me and my husband have. It from the moment of, getting a harvest or just being out there in the wilderness together. For some reason, it's a really great feeling, and I really encourage the ladies and younger youth to go out there because I feel like it gives you a sense of self-worth. It shows you that like we as women, are capable of also bringing home a harvest and to feed our family. Because I know every time when I bring a white-tailed deer home, and I'm like, I tell my kids what they're eating, and I'm like, this is what mommy got, and it's just so wonderful. Sorry, hold on.
That's okay. Hi.
This is my little one.
Hi. How are you? You're kind of sort of like you're on video TV. You're on YouTube. You're on Vimeo. You're on it.
I definitely I encourage, and I think it's one of the greatest things that we have in the world and in life now is to hunt. And we as women should definitely take advantage of it. And whether it's using a crossbow, whether it's using a compound, whether it's it it's just being outdoors, being there hunting. That's the experience.
Now, when you think about bringing food home and eating organically, we chat about this in the warm up to the show. What does organic eating mean to you?
Organic eating to me is knowing where my harvest came from. I we bring home the white-tailed deer. I know it's not from a grocery store. I know it came from the wild. I know it's going on my table, and I cut it up, and that's it. But I will say I've gotten organic. What about the food they're eating in the food plots, and what about the corn in the cornfields? How do you know that's organic corn? Well, I just think organic's a real big label now. So I just know organic to me is I brought that meat home for my family.
When we think about whitetail hunting, let's switch over to tips and techniques and lessons learned. Um, in the warm up, we mentioned about 3 different things you wanted to talk about. So let's talk about 2 things that you said: the mental preparedness and the physical preparedness helps you be a successful hunter. What do you mean by that?
For mental, honestly, it's for me. It's getting my head in the game. Every morning when we're about to go out, I have to pump myself up before I sit in that tree stand or before I put myself down on that by that tree. I have to mentally tell myself, you can do this, you're going to do it, you're going to be successful. I mean, there's days I go out in the tree stand and I may not see anything and I feel unsuccessful. I mean, it makes you get down sitting there that long and not seeing anything. So, you got to mentally prepare yourself to not give up. It's a challenge, and I look at it as never give up. And I just feel like it's like playing a sport. Your head needs to be in the game.
Yeah, I would agree because especially with all day sits during a rut, you get in the stand at 6:30, 7 o'clock or earlier, and then you don't get out till till dark. It's hard to stay in the stand, but you know that 5 seconds of thrill or excitement when that Mr. Wonderful, as I call him, comes by your stand makes it all worthwhile. And some people don't understand that at all. They
No,
can't
don't.
grasp they can't grasp that.
I know, and that's the thing. I know some people who hunt and they'll sit up there for like 3 hours, and if they don't see anything, they're like, "I'm done." It's that's the mental breakdown, and I don't want. I try to never get to that point, even if I haven't seen anything the first 3 hours. I try to mentally say, you know what, stick it out. There's a reason you're out here. So
Yeah, and it does take investment or time, unless, even on private land, it doesn't really matter. Those bucks are going to move when they're going to move, and you just have to be there, especially
yep,
during the rut, because you don't have any idea of what time of day they're going to come through. They could come through at 7 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock. You just don't know.
definitely, definitely. I've
Now,
had
let's
experiences like that.
have you tell us,
Yeah.
you're laughing, so tell us one of those experiences.
So like the whole archery season, I was sitting out in my stand last year just waiting for this 8 point. Me and my husband were like, one of us will see this 8 point. I'm sitting out there waiting every day. The next thing I know, the last day of archery, the rut was in full effect. We had a very weird season this past year, and there were bucks everywhere. There was deer everywhere. It was like deer heaven for me. But I was just waiting, and finally that 8 point came in, but he was not in any range of shooting, and I kept grunting and doing everything I could, and he was on a mission, and he went up, and I never got a chance to get him. You're making a lot of noise. Sorry.
So did you take a smaller deer, or you just didn't get a
No, I
buck?
I was just gonna wait till rifle season. I said, all right, I'll just try on rifle because I just knew nothing was the ones that were coming up to me that were close. They weren't even legal. So I didn't even. I had already harvested my doe, so I wasn't gonna try anything else, and I wanted to wait.
So a legal buck where you are is it's a 2 pointer, 4 pointer. What's a legal buck?
Four.
4 point.
Yep, 4 points.
So that's got to be frustrating when you're seeing a lot of deer and they just
Oh, it
don't have the
is.
horn.
It definitely is so frustrating, but it's gonna be awesome this year because our son, finally got his youth mentor. So this year is going to be a good year for him because there's plenty out there for him to get one in.
No, are you hunting private land or public land?
Private. It's our family's property, so
How many acres do you have?
it's what, about 4 acres.
Okay. So let's talk about hunters for the bone or hunters for the table. In the warm up, we talked about that, and
Yeah.
I know where you're coming from, but let's explore and share those thoughts with our listeners.
Well, I've come into conversations with a couple buddies, and excuse me, one moment. I've come into contact with a couple buddies, and we've had conversations of I should have waited. Maybe I would have saw a bigger one. I would have had a better chance. And I would tell them, look, even my husband's come in conversation. We're like, look, we are meat hunters. You know, I mean, we have some bones on the wall in the house, and they're nice, but at the end of the day, they are the meats in the freezer. That's it. And so we are big harvest to eat. We don't harvest for trophies to put on the wall. We have 4 kids. Meat's expensive. We like to fill our freezer every year. Like right now, every year we're about 4 deer deep every season. And right now, we are down to the minimum, and we're just waiting for archery again.
Now, do you butcher your own meat?
Our buddy does it for us.
So you have a friend that will take it down,
Yeah.
break it down, and wrap
Yeah.
it and everything?
Yeah, our buddy, we got it, we do all that, and then we take it up to him. He'll cut it up, make steaks for us. We don't add, even in our ground deer, we don't add anything. So. Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Real people in real places, so I'm good with that. That's for sure. So when your hunting buddies say, "Hey, you should let them grow and let them grow and all that," so you just stick with, "Hey, we're hunters and we eat what we kill, and that's why we hunt." Is that pretty much it?
That's pretty much it. I mean, we told ourselves we were gonna, one of these years we were gonna do it. We were gonna be like, let's wait and get a big one, But I don't know. It comes down to the end. The freezer has to be full for us. In all honesty, we depend on venison. Here, I'll get you a cookie. Come on, let's go.
We're gonna take a cookie break.
Yes, she needs a cookie and an attitude change. There you go. Go sit down. Thank you. All right.
Let's go back to your tips and techniques and talk about scent control and why that's so important to you.
Well, scent control is one important thing for me because I learned to really be scent free. I will tell you experience I had when I first started hunting. I went in, I took a scentless shower. I did that, but I guess some of my clothing still weren't scent free, and I got caught a couple times, and I really didn't understand the first couple years of hunting that why I kept getting caught, and finally I'm just like, man, it's my scent. And I just kept getting better at being scent free every time I went in. So these past experiences, I've been really able to creep up and be down at the stand without being caught, without scaring anything, spooking anything. It's so. I mean, I really think being scent free is very important.
Now, how do you do that? Talk to us about, when you get up, you said you take a scent-free shower, you have everything in bins. Walk us through what
So,
scent-free means to you.
so what happens being scent free for us is I will bring my bow. I actually bring my bow up from the basement, bring it upstairs. I let it sit outside. I spray it down with like scent. What do I use? I use whatever's on sale. Honestly, I'm not a big brand person, but I spray it down and I let it sit outside, and then I go upstairs. I get my normal stuff ready, and like my boots, I bring outside. I spray them down, let them sit outside for the night, and then in the morning I wake up, take a scent-free shower, and all my clothes are in a bin, and I put these earth these dirt like earth scent wafers in my bin, and that's what we have sitting in them all year. And every year, once a year, I go around and I recycle and start new again. So, like right now, this month, scent I'm gonna do scent free wash with all my clothing and put new wafers in the bin and start over again. So I go from that scent free wash all the way down straight from my boots to my clothes, everything. And then even before I get in the car, my husband thinks I'm crazy, but I spray my car down before we sit in the car and go out to our spot in the morning.
Now,
So,
have you ever used Scent Crusher?
oh man, I I haven't used Scent Crusher. I'm trying to think of the name of the one I use.
Because
Mine's
they have a,
I'm having.
I've heard a lot of good things about Scent Crusher. I personally don't use it, just because I haven't haven't tried to use it, but I've heard a lot of
My
good
buddy
things.
told me that Scent Crusher is really good too.
Yeah, for the car, especially for the car, you just put it in there, and it works well. So there's a shout out for Scent Crusher.
Huh. I'll have to try that.
Yeah, do some research, and like I tell everybody, there's a gazillion products out there, and everybody has a great marketing team, and they have great people, spokesmen, and they sponsor a lot of good people. But the truth of the matter is, it has to work for you, and it doesn't matter how much it costs or if it's free. It still has to work for you. And
Yeah, that's what it is. I mean, we've found, well, just like you asked me earlier about what kind of boots I use lacrosses, and some people tell me, "Oh, you need to try these ones." That's not what works for me. I love my lacrosses. They're comfy. They keep my feet warm. It's. I mean, that's one thing I always try and avoid with like how the outdoor world is turning into. It's you need to get this right now because it's the best product. I mean, I get that, but it may not work good for me. It might work for you.
yeah, I agree. Let's talk a little bit about the food plots. You said that on the family acreage and stuff, you do have food plots. Let's talk us through what you plant, how you plant it, and and your tree stand setups on that food plot.
Well, actually, we have we put what do we put? We put bean sprouts and clovers out. So um, we have a what do we have? We have it out in Punxsutawney, and we go ahead and we go out there and we rototill, put the sorry, we put the clover out, and then my husband usually, honestly, my husband's the main man who does all this, and I'm the one that goes out and does all the. I go with him to set up the tree stands. Um, Yesterday we were out cutting paths to our tree stands, and me and my daughter collected a bunch of apples and put them out by there. We put a mineral block out there this year. We never really used a mineral block, but we were told to really try and use one. We'll see a difference. So, I mean, we started. When do we start? I think we started in end of May. I want to say once turkey season was over, that's when we started getting into it again. So
Now, how
I
many?
mean, to be successful for us, it's a continuous thing, and we're constantly working at it. I mean, we even had trail cams up before turkey season, before we had to take them down and stop feeding the deer. That's what we were doing, and we stopped, and we kept seeing deer coming in. We just, it's just nice to know and be prepared what's in your area.
Let's talk about your stand sets. Now, do you have one food plot or two food plots? What kind of food plots do you have?
We just have one, and it's full of clover.
And how many stands do you have on that?
We only have one stand on that, and then we have another. We made a feeder, but in Pennsylvania, once season's in, you got to stop feeding the deer. Um, we have a pipe. We made one out of PVC piping, so we have that by our other stand, and we all have 2-man ladder stands. So one of us is always filming or taking pictures while the other one's hunting. Or during rifle season, we both carry a rifle, and it's game on. Some days we want to film, some days we want to take photos, and some days we're just like we need to do this and be successful and not worry about that.
So you have two stand sets then, one above the
Yep.
other.
Yeah, we have 2.
So when you're hunting, does your husband always hunt right next to you, or do you split up at times?
No, if we go with each other, we sit in the 2-man ladder stand. And then if I, and it's hard because we have 4 kids, so us getting out together is like once in a blue moon now. It used to be easier, but now it's like once in a blue moon till the younger one's a little older. So, but most of the time we're in a 2-man ladder stand. But there's been some occasions now where he'd go sit in a stand. He'd go sit in a tree climber, and I'll tell him I'll just go put myself down by a tree. That's how I did last year when I killed killed a doe. Yeah.
So you were on the ground then? Did I hear that right?
Yeah. Yep. I actually harvested a doe from the ground about 25 yards away from me. Didn't see me. It kept coming and coming and didn't even notice. I stood up and it still didn't move. It was just standing staring at me, and next thing you know, she let me get her.
No, was that with a bow or a rifle?
A bow.
So that must have been kind of fun.
Yes, it was. I love the close encounters I get with the white-tailed deer. Even if I'm not hunting, I know this is off topic, but even when I'm running and I happen to come up upon a couple does, or I just love that interaction, the eye contact that you make with them. It's pretty
Yeah, I
awesome.
did. Yeah, it is thrilling to be that close to a wild critter. You know,
Yeah, and I mean, a couple times I've had my dog, and there's been doe just staring at us and looking, and they would just still keep coming towards us, and I'm just like, and me and my dog are sitting there watching them. It's been great.
that's great. We're at the time in the show now, Samantha, that you get a chance to do some promos and some shout outs to the family, friends. We already talked about lacrosse boots, but whoever you want to, and then we're going to wrap the show.
Okay, well, first I'd like to thank my husband and my kids because they are 110% my backbone for everything I do, even to be a successful hunter. If it wasn't for my husband, I probably wouldn't be the hunter I am today. And I'd like to thank my producer from Naked and Afraid. She was fantastic, and I absolutely love her. And I actually would like to say thank you to my Keystone Outdoors crew, because they're just a bunch of local Pennsylvania people that like to hunt and fish, and it's just nice to be a part of a group that loves to do the same thing I do. So,
Well, with that, folks, we're going to leave Pennsylvania and we're going to head. I forget where we're heading this afternoon, but I'll tell you that when you get there. But Samantha, thank you so much for being a guest on Whitetail Rendezvous, and wish you well. And I can't wait to see your show.
thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye.
Next up is Dirt Nap Gear's founder, Tom Alderman. Now, Tom hails out of Kansas City. He's been able to hunt a lot of places. And, he's sitting at home, as the story goes, and sitting at home and figured, okay, I need a better broadhead. He just wasn't satisfied. So, being the guy that he is, he's a practicing attorney. He figured out, okay, what do I need to do? How do I need to do it? And then he did it. And his broadheads have won national acclaim and have been rated one of the top broadheads. And we're going to talk all about how his broadheads came to be, and his love for hunting, and his chasing bucks in both Kansas and Missouri during the rut is one of his favorite times to be in a tree. So sit back, relax, and enjoy Tom Alderman from Dirt Nap Gear.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.